on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Sofyan Amrabat to Manchester United. Here we go. Fabrizio Romano, breaking news in the last couple of minutes, has indeed said those magic words. The sirens are going off. It's all going off. We've got quotes from Erik ten Hag as well, saying that Rasmus Højlund has started as well. The sirens. I mean, that might be a record. that might literally be a record in terms of how quickly the sirens have happened. Nevertheless, indeed, if you are just joining us, Sofyan Amrabat to Manchester United. Here we go. Agreement in place. He has said that more details are coming soon. Now, obviously, we're live a bit earlier. This was intended to be the press conference reaction stream. I'm just getting the quotes when it comes to the press conference right now. There is a ton going on when it comes to stuff for this weekend too. He has confirmed that not only is Rasmus Højlund available and in the squad for this weekend against Arsenal, he is also saying that Sergio Reguilón has trained with the Manchester United squad this morning as well, suggesting that he also is going to be with the squad this weekend. Right, just going back to Sofyan Amrabat, once again, Fabrizio Romano has given the here we go. And he is also saying, Sofyan Amrabat, new Manchester United player as revealed earlier. Here we go, confirmed. Details on this agreement. It's a loan deal with a €10 million fee plus a buy clause for June 2024 worth €20 million plus €5 million in add-ons if Man United want Sofyan Amrabat to stay on the long term. He is on his way to Manchester shortly. I would assume in the private jet to that was booked in Manchester as well. Mid is saying the way Owen's pronounced Sofyan. Is it Sofyan? Is it Sofyan? I mean, my pronunciation is bad. If you can correct me, Mira, that would be optimal, certainly as well. Sofyan. I've got a complex already. Nevertheless, again, the details are kind of just coming through right now, so I'll keep reading them out as we get them, certainly here. So once again, Romano is just breaking down how much this is for. It was going to be if you're going to, people start converting this into pounds. So let's do it in pounds this time around. Sofyan Amrabat's loan deal will be an £8.5 million fee plus a buy clause for June 2024, of course, next year, worth £17 million plus €2.5 million. I don't know why they've done it in, is that pounds? Mixing currencies in add-ons if United want to stay for the long term. So indeed it is a loan with an obligation to buy. Indeed it is going to be, I guess, done. And now he's on his way to Manchester to have a medical and get this one over the line. So we got there. We got there in the end, folks. We got there in the end when it comes to Sofyan Amrabat. There was concerns, there was rumours, there was trepidation, there was whatever you want to call it, but we've got there in the end, and we've got the player that seemingly we were hoping for. Does it paper over the cracks of a bad window? Absolutely not. Of course it doesn't. And it still is panic or anything like that, but we now have the option to get him next year for a decent fee as well. Look, if Sofyan Amrabat, with that fee that's put out there, suggesting that we'll be able to buy him for, £17 million this time next summer, or June next year, if he has a quality season and he's playing regularly and scoring goals, but being a big influence in our team, then it might look at next year. 70 million might be a complete snip. To be honest with you, that might be a bargain around this time next year. We might look at it and say, wow. Or we give ourselves. They're suggesting it's an option. I mean, unless I've misread something, it's not an obligation. I would assume it's an option. It's a plus they've just called it a buy clause. So I don't know. Again, we'll have to wait and see if that's an option or an obligation, because obviously there's a big difference. If it's an option, then we've done really well there, because again, if it doesn't work out, we can always move into a different direction. If it's an obligation, it's kind of got to work out. But again, that price I think is pretty decent as well. So again, it's very positive. As far as Erik ten Hag, again, he's just speaking to the media at Carrington ahead of the game against Arsenal at the weekend, because there's a small matter of going to the Emirates and facing Arsenal. He was asked about Sofyan Amrabat, and he said, quote, you know that there are so many rumours, but it's nice, eh? basically suggesting that he's not really playing very coy, isn't he? Playing very coy and not saying that much. As to when he was asked on whether Sofyan Amrabat would complete the window, he said, quote, "I think we have done good business. We constructed a strong squad and we are ready for the fight. On more signings," he said, "potentially yes, could be. We have to be realistic." So, I mean, I would assume he's probably talking about Sofyan Amrabat there. But you never know. You never know. I mean, this is early. This is early for Manchester United. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for him to, come to Manchester, do his medical, get it all officially announced. But they've given themselves certainly now plenty of time to complete this and get it over the line. We've seen transfers done within like an hour, when it comes to deadline day. So there's plenty of time for this one to get done, and there's plenty of time for exits. And now you look at a situation where I suppose anything is possible. There's some optimism for the remainder of the day. Would I think that any more incomings are going to happen? I mean, I don't know. I mean, in these quotes where Ten Hag is talking about incomings and signings, and he says, for instance, Laurie Whitwell is reporting when Ten Hag was asked on more signings, he said, quote, "potentially yes, could be, we have to be realistic." One would think he probably is referring to Sofyan Amrabat in that instance, but it's deadline day. I suppose you never know. You never know at all. And just once again, as far as the other players are concerned, Reguilon, even though he hasn't been officially announced by United, Ten Hag saying that he's there. He's trained this morning, so he's going to be available, one would assume, for the weekend against Arsenal. And also, Rasmus Højlund is also going to be available to face Arsenal at the weekend. When asked about Højlund, Erik Ten Hag said, quote, "Yes, so he had a good training week. So tomorrow we have final training, but he's doing well. He's responded well. So he will be available for Sunday's game." So he'll be available, looking likely that Sergio Reguilon is going to be available. Sofyan Amrabat, is he going to be available? I mean, probably not. Probably not. When was the deadline to register for the weekend? I think it's past midday, isn't it? So he's not going to be available. The point being is we've got the player certainly that we wanted, and we've got we've got someone that we were chasing for the whole window. I've still seen a negativity on it or anything like that, which is fine. I've seen conspiracy theories that this was always the plan by Manchester United, and I think my response to that would be, I think that's given Manchester United way too much credit, to be honest, to suggest that this was always part of a grand plan by United, and this was always some kind of plan by John Murtough and Hargreaves and all that kind of stuff, and they were always intending on doing it, and the intention was always to leave it to the last day of the window. I think that gives people that aren't very good at their job way too much credit for having something strategically planned out that long. I think, look, if push came to shove, and if Man United hadn't started the season the way that they had, I don't know if this deal would have happened realistically, and if it wasn't for Sofyan Amrabat, I mean, doing everything possible in his power to make this deal happen, it wouldn't have happened. Like, it just wouldn't have. There were other, for Fiorentina certainly, better financial deals on the table for them realistically. Whether it be from Forest or from Fulham or from West Ham or from Saudi, like there are plenty of permanent deals ready to go right now. And it was Sofyan Amrabat going, "No, I don't want to go anywhere else. All I want to do is go to Manchester United. That's all I care about. That's the only deal I'm willing to accept. That's the only one I'm going to do." So that played in our favour massively, and we had to negotiate for it because we couldn't buy him permanently. We didn't have the money, and realistically, Fiorentina have had to cave. Because I think when we were, all summer, when we've been talking about getting Sofyan Amrabat, we've been saying, Fred will go, Donny will go, then we buy Amrabat. I mean, at no point realistically until the last few days, has it ever been discussed that it was going to be a loan? It was always under the assumption, we're going to buy him. We're going to buy him on loan. That's what we're going to do. We're going to buy him. We're going to sell these players and we're going to buy him. So, had it not been for Amrabat's insistence, again, and saying, you can keep getting all these opponent offers in, I'm not accepting them, it wouldn't have happened. And then United, fortunately, because you've got a player that's got on strike, not trained with the squad, turned down other offers. It leaves Fiorentina with a situation of going, fine, we'll do a loan with an obligation to buy, fine. So I think that kind of narrative of this was always United's plan and they left it for this grand finale, if you will, on deadline day, I think gives them way too much credit for being way too sort of calculated, because I think that, again, clearly we don't have a lot of money and we ran out of money this summer. We couldn't sell players and we had to hope that the player was going to do us a favour. And that's what happened. The player has done us a favour by digging his heels in and making sure that this deal happens. And thankfully, we've now got our man. So I think that's massively positive. He's needed. I think also it must be pointed out too that as far as is he going to come in and just completely resolve our midfield issues or be this total saviour? Probably not. You know, we got to manage those expectations too. There are still going to be difficulties, but certainly having him is massively positive. We saw his performances at the World Cup. We saw his aggressiveness. We saw his tenacity and his technical ability as well. And I think he really is going to complement Casemiro. I think he really is going to complement other midfielders at the club. And and I don't see it as a situation where it's Casemiro or Amrabat. I see a midfield with both. I see a midfield now that's got, again, more legs in it, more determination. And I posted on X, if he shows half the determination that he has showed to get this deal done on the pitch, we've got a Salford player that's fighting for the badge and fighting for the shirt. That's what we've got. We've got a player that cares. We've got a player that wants to be there. We've got a player that has done everything to make sure this deal can happen. And we've got a player that, again, wants it. And sometimes that's something we've sort of thrown at some of the players over the last few years, isn't it? How much do they care? How much do they really care about the result? How much do they really care about the fans? How much do they really care about the club or anything like that? You know, this guy clearly cares a lot, and I think to be honest, he's already kind of got the fans on his side by the way that he's pushed so hard for this deal as well. So again, I think that's a huge credit to him. David Ornstein also as well has just posted, further confirming the news that was broken by Fabrizio Romano. He has posted, quote, Manchester United have reached agreement with Fiorentina to sign Sofyan Amrabat. The 27-year-old Morocco international midfielder will join Manchester United from Fiorentina on a season-long loan with an option to buy. Ten Hag midfield target secured. So Ornstein is suggesting that it's an option to buy, not an obligation. So United have really, they've managed to sort of pull this one out of nowhere and get this one done because, and again, it's a credit to Sofyan Amrabat. It really is, because for Fiorentina to have agreed permanent deals with other clubs for significant amounts of money, whether it be, Forest, West Ham, Fulham. I'm not sure the Fulham one was agreed, but certainly, money was put on the table, Saudi. And then for them to end up with, well, it's a loan with an option to buy is kind of nuts, realistically. But again, I'm not sure. I would assume they might trigger something in his contract as well, possibly too. Again, this is quite the fun of being live, is that you're constantly just getting this information as you get it. But once again, David Ornstein saying that Manchester United have reached an agreement with Fiorentina to sign Sofyan Amrabat. The Moroccan international midfielder will join Manchester United from Fiorentina on a season-long loan with an option to buy. Ten Hag has got his man. The midfield target is secured, which is, unbelievably needed. I think if we'd have got to the end of the window today, if we could have got to the window closing and the only signings today would have been Bayindir and it would have been Reguilon, then we'd have been going, what on earth is happening? So this is obviously desperately needed. It was clearly the midfielder that Ten Hag wanted as well. And realistically, with however many hours that are left right now, it was the only option left, I think. Other options that were there, Gravenberch, he's going to Liverpool. Højbjerg, there was only going to be really a permanent deal as well. Whether you liked that option or not, it was only ever going to be permanent. And clearly, we can't afford to do any more permanent deals. We don't have the money or the desire or whatever, however you feel about it. We cannot do any more permanent deals. That is obvious. So it had to be a loan, And realistically, this is the best possible loan you can get. You know, absolutely the best possible loan you can get. A quality player that was linked to other big clubs in January as well. He was linked to a move to Barcelona that kind of fell through. And I think it is obviously it's a massive positive, absolute positive. Let's have a look at what people are saying when it comes to the super chats as well. Jacob's been a member for 14 months. Says, finally, here we go. But we still had a shit transfer window. Let's not get carried away. Biggie Third with the super chat as well said, I should be happy about Amrabat, but all I can think about is that it is another very good player who will be dragged down to our level. You got to believe. You got to have positivity, Biggie Third. Back, get the abuse that I get on social media. Back the players. Back the. Oh. I hope they lose just for whingers like you. And I'm like, the irony, you're whinging at me. All Elite says, Owen, Cancelo still available on loan. Don't even start, All Elite. V33 says, glad with the deal, but in an embarrassing manner. I mean, it still doesn't, as I mentioned, it still doesn't paper over the cracks, does it, of as you mentioned, the way that we've operated in the last week, 10 days or so, isn't it? You know, the way still that we have operated is still a complete shambles, absolute complete shambles, and it is still embarrassing that Man United is stricken with FFP problems to the point whereby we're scrambling around for loans with, you know, these obligation to buys and all that kind of stuff. And again, I mean, it must be, it's got to be stressed over and over and over and over and over again. This deal wouldn't happen if not for the lengths that Amrabat has gone to make this happen. Because if he was somewhat indifferent on joining United, or he was just like, obviously I'd like to go to United, but I'm open to other places, I'm open to other clubs, he'd have been gone way before now. Way before now. He'd have been gone somewhere else, or he'd have gone on a permanent deal or anything like that. He'd have been gone so long ago. So, you know, I just hope he's good now, because we hold so much. He's done so much to make this one happen. He's really put everything in to make this one happen, that I just hope really it works out for him, to be honest. Because the amount of effort he's put in is incredibly commendable. Scars with the super chat says, do you reckon he starts ahead of Mount? Well, this is interesting, actually. I'll put this to you guys in the chat. Now that we've got these midfielders, of course, we know we've got some injuries, Mount's injured, etc. But when every player is fit and available, when every player's fit, when every player's ready to go in the squad, what is Manchester United's strongest midfield now? You know, considering that, let's say, you know, if you include Bruno in the 10, what is United's strongest midfield? What would you like to see Manchester United play in that midfield? Let's say it's a midfield 3. What would you like to see? For me, I mean, I like the idea of Casemiro, Amrabat, and Bruno. I like those midfielders just to be literally, again, ball winners, covering distance, winning the ball back, progressing it forward, having a bit of physicality, again, having a bit of grit, having a bit of aggressiveness as well. I mean, realistically, it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be the same for every game. But what is our strongest midfield? At the moment, I'd go Casemiro, go Amrabat, go Bruno. You know, those two in midfield as well. That's a proper shithouse midfield. And again, cover some ground, be difficult. I mean, you've got these players in front of you. If you're Casemiro and Amrabat, you've got these players in front of you, these flair players that have got to pull their weight more, and they've got to do more. They do have to do more, and they do have to be more clinical. But if you get in the mindset of, again, they'll make it difficult for opposition players to play. They'll win the ball back. They'll carry it. They'll, you know, because what does Ten Hag say? I want the team to be best in transition. Well, if you're going to be the best in transition, you've also got to have people in the middle that are going to cover a lot of ground, but also they're going to constantly win the ball back. They're going to press. They're going to fight. And also, once they've won the ball back as well, they can then distribute it effectively too. They can actually spread it to those wide players. They can give it to Bruno Fernandes, who we know can create. They can fire it in to the striker who can play with his back to goal. In this instance, it would be Rasmus Højlund, possibly Martial, if he can stay fit. So that would be the midfield at the moment, realistically. And I think also, I think Amrabat comes in at a time which he would look around and say, right, Mason Mount, he's out for however many weeks. We don't know how long Mount's out for. I mean, they're suggesting he's going to be back after the international break, but I think it's a hamstring injury, and you never know. You never know how those ones go. They can end up being a bit longer, and you've got to be a bit careful. Look at Diogo Dalot. He did his hamstring at the World Cup last year. We thought he was going to be back after a couple of weeks, then he had a setback. So keep an eye on that one. And if I'm Amrabat, I'm getting into that team because there's a spot there for me right now. Casemiro obviously is always going to play, but Eriksen, yes, quality on the ball. I still think the best technical player we got at the club, certainly as a midfielder. But he doesn't have the legs to consistently do it every single week on a 90-minute basis. He can do 90 minutes, but not week in and week out, not 2 games a week or anything like that. So if I'm at Amrabat, I'm getting into that team. I'm putting the shift in. I'm showing that I'm already indispensable. And those other people, Mason Mount, I'm looking around going, what am I going to do? How am I going to get back in? And it might just be a case of Mount suddenly that when he's starting games, suddenly he's not alongside Casemiro anymore. Maybe they're suddenly, Ten Hag looks at him for a different position. He looks at him for a bit further forward, or he looks at him, Mount's played off the right before. Maybe Ten Hag looks at that when it comes to if Anthony's not performing too. So there's certainly, it gives us options as well. And like I keep saying, I want in my midfield, I want fighters. I want grit. I want aggressiveness. I want distance covered. Some of those games for Morocco at the World Cup last year, he was everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. Every single inch of blade of grass, he covered it. And not only that, I think it's also the sort of the technical aspect of his game that people kind of overlook when it comes to Amrabat too. Because not only is he, can cover the ground, win the ball back, but also, again, it's progressing it too. It's finding the right pass. It's having the composure and the grit to win the ball back, and then being able to put your foot on the ball and being able to pass it as well. So I think it's obviously massively positive. It's the one that I think everyone wanted today. It's the deal that we wanted to happen. Of course, not been confirmed yet. It's a Romano, here we go. So we're still waiting for the club to officially announce it. Won't be playing Sunday against Arsenal. So that will mean that he'll make his debut after the international break. Brighton at home. I mean, I didn't have my sounds ready. I was rushing around that quickly. Brighton at home. It's going to be a tough one. Yeah, and you're gonna need those kind of players like Sofyan Amrabat against Brighton at home, no doubt about it. Where else are we when it comes to super chats? Let me see if I'm caught up. PS says Amrabat must start along with Bruno, Casemiro, and alongside. Let me start again. Amrabat must start along with Bruno. Casemiro at United is better suited as a number 8, so he and Mount can rotate. That rhymes. Mount can also rotate on the left and right. So PS is saying that Amrabat must start along with Bruno Fernandes. I'm going to put a poll in the chat and ask the question: do you expect? I mean, outside of the ones that we know about now. So. Reguilon has not been officially announced as far as I'm aware. Yes, Ten Hag has said that he's trained and all that kind of stuff, so he's good enough as announced, but not an official announcement. Obviously, Bayern has been announced earlier today. Amrabat will be the next announcement after Reguilon. My poll that I'm going to put in the chat right now is there any chance there is anyone else? Is there any chance that there's any more business? The question will be, do you expect any more signings? Poll is in the chat. If I was voting in that poll right now, I'd say no. We haven't been linked to anyone, have we? Anyone else? I mean, it was really Amrabat. That was about it. Unless something happens regarding Scott McTominay to Fulham, which I guess is still possible, although lots and lots of people have been reporting today. Rob Dawson, I mean, Flex was even saying it on Sky Sports. Word from the club basically is that no, it's very unlikely unless Fulham come in with a bid that is just too good to turn down, i.e. 40-45 million, something like that. Then maybe they'll have a look at it. The more likely one that Fulham are going to get It's probably going to be Højbjerg from Spurs, which again would make more sense considering both London clubs. That deal can be done fairly quickly. It's just easier. It's easier to do. There's a price point there already. It'd actually be cheaper than getting McTominay too. But so unless something changes with United, I just don't know if I see any more signings realistically today. I'm not sure. I can't see. But deadline day is weird. Sometimes suddenly you're just like linked with someone that you weren't. You're like, oh my, when did that happen? What? Where did we get linked to that player? But I don't really see that at this point, to be honest with you. I don't see that. But if you are just joining us, once again, the breaking news this lunchtime is the news that seemingly we all wanted to hear, and that is Sofyan Amrabat to Manchester United. Here we go. Fabrizio Romano saying that Sofyan Amrabat is a new Manchester United player, or will be a new Manchester United player. Here we go, confirmed. Details on this deal, which is a loan deal on a €10 million fee plus a buy clause for June 2024 worth €20 million plus €5 million in add-ons. If Man United want the player to stay on the long term, he is on his way to Manchester shortly. Seemingly, I guess, in that private jet that was booked, not booked, unofficial. It wasn't us. Yes, it was us. That is going to be going from Florence to Manchester. David Ornstein also confirming the news, saying Manchester United have reached an agreement with Fiorentina to sign Sofyan Amrabat. The Moroccan international midfielder will join Manchester United from Fiorentina on a season-long loan with an option to buy. Ten Hag midfield target secured. Now, actually, just a bit more details on how United have come to put this deal together. It's being reported by Samuel Lutkers from the Manchester Evening News that Manchester United are indeed using the fee from Dean Henderson's sale to finance a deal for Amrabat. I would assume that's basically saying that this loan fee that they're doing is coming out of the Dean Henderson the Dean Henderson fee that they got from Crystal Palace. Because let's face it, as loan fees go, it's fairly high. It's fairly high actually for Amrabat. I mean, €10 million, so that's about £8.5 million. As loan fees go, it's on the high side realistically, but it's enough to get the player, and we've done what we needed to do, certainly. So for all of those questions, what happened to that Dean Henderson money? It went into getting Amrabat on loan. But as I keep sort of stressing, for all that talk that this was always going to happen, this was always going to plan, I think United worked out maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is probably why this went quite quiet. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago they realised we can't afford to buy him right now from an FFP point of view, whether you believe it or not. I think they've realised we can't afford to buy him, and this is going to be really difficult in the current circumstances, i.e. if we sell Donny van der Beek and sell Dean Henderson, then we might be able to do it. But as far as, buying him outright, giving Fiorentina what they want, sort of €20 million now or what have you, we can't do it, which is maybe why it went a bit quiet. And during that time period, you had Amrabat tell Fiorentina, I'm not going anywhere else. You can accept any offer you want. You can accept it from any club that you want. I'm not going to take it. The only place I'm going is Man United. And it's led to Fiorentina over the last, 24, 48 hours to having to sort of buckle somewhat and say, ideally we wanted to sell you. Ideally, we wanted to go to these clubs that we accepted bids from, permanent transfer bids from, whether it be in Saudi or in the Premier League. But considering that you're insistent and you're saying that you're not going to go anywhere else, we've got to open up to just being open to these loan signings with obligation to buys, which then opened the door to allow United to get it done. See, this is what I mean, Wobo. I mean, I appreciate people are believing this, but he says, this Amrabat buy is staged, been booked for weeks for today, so fans would lose it because they aren't buying anyone else, PR United. I just, honestly, I find the notion of that so difficult to believe, realistically. I think that is so like tinfoil hat, because I think that gives Richard Arnold and John Murtough way too much credit for being that calculated when the evidence is there to suggest that they ain't that. They're not even that good at their job to be like to be planning things out that far. Of like, and also as well, if you were Eric Ten Hag, if you like again, think of this logically. If you were Eric Ten Hag and you found out that you could have had Sofyan Amrabat 3 weeks ago, a month ago, right? And they didn't do it for PR purposes, you'd resign. You'd literally, you would resign and go, screw you. I could have had this player by this point. You are not acting in the best interest of the team or in the club. You don't want to win anything. I'm off. Like, I'm out of here. Like, it's just nonsense. Like, it's just nonsense to suggest that would be the case. Again, I think the more realistic point of view was they realized a few weeks ago, shit, we can't buy him. We don't have the money to buy him. And then it was a case of, if we're not going to buy him, someone else is probably going to do it. Amrabat digs his heels in and says, I'm not going anywhere. Who's going to buy me? The only place I want to go to United. Fiorentina changed their point of view. Suddenly a loan move actually is feasible and possible. And then they agreed the loan deal. Because realistically, Fiorentina only pivoted to a loan deal, 48 hours ago? Something like that? It wasn't that long ago. And I think to suggest that they had this grand storyboard out, Murto and Arnold, we could do it today. Why don't we do it last on deadline day? If you were Ten Hag, you'd be like, you taking the piss? Like, what about the team? What about the team? What about my players? Like, it's just, think of it logically when it comes to that. That makes 0 sense, realistically. None. Absolutely 0 sense, that thing. And I know people, again, I think you can't go, John Murto and Richard Arnold, they're incompetent, they're rubbish, they have no idea what they're doing, and then go, but they know exactly what they're doing for today. They planned this out really far in advance, and they were really calculated about it. Because they can't be idiots and then geniuses at the same time. They're either stupid or they're not. And I think it's become fairly obvious throughout this window that they don't really know what they're doing when it comes to this. It has been a shambles. This one, realistically, Sofyan Amrabat, has fallen into our lap. It's literally fallen into our lap because of a player that did everything. He moved heaven and earth to make this one happen. Like, that's what he did. He made sure that this is going to happen. I'm going to go to Manchester United. That's what I'm going to do. It's just, yeah, I don't buy it. I really, really don't. And I know that historically, for instance, last year we did a deal on deadline day, Anthony. But again, that wasn't based on any form of genius. That was based, once again, what was that based on? Incompetence. That was based on a terrible start to the season, insistence from Ten Hag, panicking because we weren't playing very well, and because of that, they overspent. What kind of genius? What kind of genius would go, right, I could get Anthony really early on in the window, but they're saying the price is too, what did they say it was at the time? 60 million euros? Something like that. And we're going, that's too high. We're going to plan it out long term and buy him on deadline day for 100 million euros. That's good PR. They wouldn't do that. Like, the Ronaldo one, people forget, that was a different situation too. Cristiano Ronaldo, with like 10 days of the window left, told Juventus, I'm going, I'm leaving, I'm not coming back. He cleared out his own locker and basically was like, find me a club. And he did. He found it that it was Man City or Man United, and ultimately went to Man United. So I think like this idea of this being this long vision to sort of, have to quell the fans' demands or anything like that, I just don't think is particularly true. I think it's a thing that became much more feasible in the last 48 hours, 72 hours, something like that. And the idea that this was always some long-term plan, I just think gives people way too much credit, to be honest. It really, really does. Wobo says, if you don't think they would do that, then you don't know the Glazers. They do this with American football all the time. Do the research. Well-calculated billionaires. Bankers run our club. They absolutely bankers run our club. But again, it's just, it's illogical. Like, it really is. I think it's looking for sort of conspiracies that aren't there, with this. And the more logical and more reasonable explanation as for why we're signing Sofyan Amrabat on deadline day, as opposed to 3 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, or a player that we had agreed personal terms with like 2 months ago, it's because we're not very good at doing transfers. Like, that's it. That's the bet. We're not good at doing transfers. We're broke. FFP, whatever you want to say about that, but there's not a lot that we got no money. We're poorly run. We're really badly run. We can't sell players too, because if we had sold Donny van der Beek for actual cash as opposed to loaning him out 3 weeks ago, most likely we would have signed Sofyan Amrabat 3 weeks ago. It's the inability to move players on. That doesn't seem to me like a great grand plan or anything like that, does it? You know, that just reeks of incompetence is what it is. So to say that gives them way too much credit. It's crazy. Love says, Owen, so you're saying John Muir to win? It's exactly what I'm saying, Love. That is exactly what I'm saying. Yes, it's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, no, he obviously needs to. They both need to go, and they will. If there's a takeover, you know, they would go anyway because people like to bring in their own people, whether it's Sheikh Jassim or Richard or Sir Jim Ratcliffe. They'll bring in their own people because people bring in their own people whenever they take over a business. But also, like, none of them have given any kind of performance that any prospective new owner would be like, oh, you've got to keep these people in. They're the best in class. Of course they're not the best in class at what they're doing. You know, look at the last 3 transfer windows of how we've been operating. It's tragic how we've been operating. So, yes, I push back on that quite a bit, realistically. Biggie Third with a super chat says, Owen, stop giving air to that crazy conspiracy. Yes, well, I know. But I've seen people saying that, and I've also seen people getting behind that, and I find it odd, realistically. But we've got the player that we want. And as for any more incomings, well, let's reflect to the poll. 12 minutes the poll's been in. It's got over 800 votes. And the question was, do you expect any more signings? And the majority are saying no. 62% of you say no. 38% of you say yes. I would agree with the majority on that one. I don't see United doing any more business now. I think now, if you want to get into PR and spin, what they will do with this is they will make a fanfare out of signing Amrabat now that they've got him. You know, there will be a big announcement. There will be a big thing. They'll probably leave it right close to the actual, you know, things will be completed, you know, super quickly. But the actual announcement and the pictures and the kits and all that kind of stuff, that might be left until 11 o'clock or whatever, or the optimum time for people to be watching or get the most likes and clicks. That's well within United's wheelhouse because, again, that's, you know, generally what people do. But as far as a long-term strategic plan, I don't think that is that's the case, certainly. Ali says Johnny Evans. Well, yeah, Johnny Evans, he's gonna be signing a new contract at United, or signing a 1-year deal. That was reported by the likes of Andy Mitten and others today as well. So indeed, he'll be sticking around for a year. And that goes back to why it was so important to get Amrabat today too, because could you imagine if our deadline day consisted of Bayindir, Reguilon and Johnny Evans?
Bloody hell!
It would have been criminal. Absolutely criminal. What else are we seeing in the chat? Kenny Fan TV says Ivan Toney in January. I don't think so. I did see that a couple of weeks ago that United were possibly interested in him. I just have a feeling that Brentford, like, do you sit with the player the whole time and then when he comes back, sell him? Is that like the wisest move? I mean, I don't know. How much does he have left on his contract? I don't know how much he's got left on that as well. What else are people saying here? Red said, Owen said we wouldn't get a midfielder. I mean, I might have. I can't recall. I can't recall. But you can only go by the information that's reported out there as well. This Amrabat thing has gone back and forth so many times. I mean, when the first report came out from The Athletic, when was that? Yesterday, day before last, suggesting that we were the report from The Athletic saying that we had done that loan bid that was like €2 million. You thought, well, we're not going to get him then, are we? Like, you know, But now, seemingly, things have changed. But that's because we sold Dean Henderson as well. Lux Hill says, Owen, read my last chat, please. Oh, here we go. Owen, out of the UV crew, who out of the UV crew said we'd have the most signings because we've bagged our 6th signing? Very true. I said we'd get 3. So I was miles off of that one. I said 3. Or no, did I say 4? I think I upped it to 4 because of the backup goalkeeper. That's what I always thought they only thought we were getting. So I was miles off. I was 2 off. Possibly 3. I don't know who said. It might have been Marcel. It might have been Marcel. I think maybe. Was it Marcel? It possibly was Marcel. And this just goes back to Marcel says some wild stuff. Yeah, and what's crazy with him is first of all him. But also as well, what's crazy with him is just he always ends up being right, Marcel, and it's actually really alarming. So next time he says stuff, and you have the reaction, and I have this reaction to him all the time, and I go, "Come on, Marcel, man, you're talking rubbish," and then he ends up being right. It's true. Like Prop by Palmeria says it there. Marcel always ends up right. He does. And maybe that's because he lives outside of time, so he can kind of, a bit like in the Avengers, he can sort of pop into different time streams at different points. So he can go to the future and be like, "We're gonna get 6. We're gonna get 6. One of them will be Amrabat. It's gonna be on deadline day." And 10 years time I come back, it was all part of one long plan. They planned it from 10 years ago, from 10 years in the past. It was always gonna be on deadline day at this point because that was the big aim. 100% we will sign those. 100% Marcel. Big up Marcel because he was always right. Although one thing he wasn't right was Harry Kane. And that shirt, I mean, it's September 1st today. It's deadline day today, actually. As much as I'm waxing lyrical about Marcel, about being right. Hey, deadline day today, Harry Kane's a Bayern Munich player. There's a David De Gea shirt waiting for him at the studio that he's got to put on. He's got to wear it. He's got to have it on the back. De Gea, yes. So, that's, yeah. Actually thinking about that. Dot on the record. So, there you go. Just some other little bits and pieces whilst we're live, certainly. And again, if you are just joining us, Sofyan Amrabat, here we go, is the latest news. Obviously, we'll get more details about it throughout the day. It's a loan. I'll just say I'm watching a video of him. I'm watching a video of him at the World Cup. Sprinting back, just literally going through Mbappe. Oh, it's a good video as well. It really is. It's when France play Morocco and Mbappe just skips past someone. And Amrabat, brilliant tackle. Again, that game against France, he was brilliant. Just all of those games for Morocco in the World Cup, he was unbelievable. Absolutely incredible. And I know that you have to be wary and you have to be careful in judging players off the World Cup because it's not really reflective a lot of the time and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes it is. Sometimes you have people that have fantastic World Cups and they end up going somewhere and you're like, oh my God, what a player they are. So, I mean, look at Enzo Fernandez. He just signed for Benfica, hadn't he? Had a great World Cup. Chelsea then bought him for over 100 million. So, yeah, I'm very happy with that signing. I'm still not, again, thrilled with the window by any stretch of the imagination. Don't confuse my happiness with us getting this deal over the line with an overall happiness in the transfer window or anything like that, because, a bit like with the Reguilon thing, like I was talking about earlier on, you still do have to take a look back, step back and look at the bigger picture, and it's clearly obvious that this club, the way that they are being run, is just shambolic and embarrassing. The fact that, when you do look at the details of the Amrabat signing, the lengths that he had to go to make sure that this would happen, and the lengths he had to go to ensure that no permanent bids, he was going to turn down any permanent bids because he knew that United couldn't afford a permanent bid. That's crazy, That is crazy for a club like Man United to be operating in that way. Is nuts. It really is. And I think also as well, because so much has been made about us wanting to get him and getting this done, and because so much has been made about his desire to join United as well, you just hope that the expectation on him also, again, isn't just astronomically and so high that he can't attain it. It's still we're still going to have issues, in that team. So yes, I mean, whilst I'm still happy, it's still is it's still going to be a testing season at that point, certainly as well. Lux Hill says, Owen, who'd have thought by the end of this window Eric Bailly would still be a United player? There's still time, but I know it is wild, isn't it? Eric Bailly, free transfer as well, free transfer, but United aren't willing to give him his compensation, to release him. Anything's possible between now and the end of the window, but again, that one's gone quite quiet as well. There was a report out there that Luton were interested in Donny van de Beek, which seems like such a bizarre move. I mean, like, if there's anything with Donny, the obvious thing is he needs to get out of the Premier League. Like, he's clearly struggling with the physicality of the Premier League. And for him to go to Luton, where, yeah, he would play every week, but that's a Luton side that's going to get dominated most weeks. And again, the game they're going to be playing is going to be physical. I just see that as such a strange move for him. The best move for him, I think, is to go outside of the Premier League, go to Europe, or go wherever. Yeah, I'm like, that I don't see that as a good move for him at all. Like, at all. That cannot be surely have got to be better moves for Donny van de Beek than go to Luton, realistically. Yeah, I don't think that's good. How many likes are we currently on at the moment? Let's have a look. We're at nearly 1,500 people watching. We're at 348 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. What is also on tap for the rest of the day? Well, there's still plenty of stuff to happen today, actually. Obviously, once the deal is officially announced regarding Amrabat, we will be either going live or doing some kind of video as well. In addition to that, we'll be live tonight from 9 to 11 for the final couple of hours of the transfer window to discuss, I guess, United's overall window, if there's any late business, waiting possibly for an announcement regarding Amrabat too. So we're going to be live across the 2 hours for that. It's obviously going to be pretty much anyone you can think of across UV is going to be popping in and out of that one. So be sure to join us then. We've got a game Sunday as well. We kind of forget about that. The press conference kind of has gone by the wayside today because the Amrabat news came out just before the press conference happened and all the quotes were released and all that kind of stuff. But there is going to be a load of content over the next 24 hours building up to the game at the Emirates, whether it be previews, whether it be tactical previews, fan clashes. So they're all going to be coming over the next 24 hours. So again, if you haven't already, subscribe and click that notification bell because that is the best way to find out if and when we're going to be going live or if and when a video is going to be uploaded or anything like that. So that's the next thing to do, certainly. So there you go. I think we've got one more super chat here from PS, who says, if this was planned, Man United is to be bought on a Thursday. I wonder if KG even knows at this point. I wonder if KG actually even knows about anything that's going on. I've seen him be quite active, actually, on social media the last couple of days. I think he's because he's in an undisclosed location working. And I know he's been on the set quite a bit. So I think, when you're on set, there's quite a lot of downtime between scenes, setting stuff up and all that kind of stuff. So I've seen he's been on his phone quite a bit. So I wonder if he knows about this news. He's been insistent on the war kitty, KG's war kitty. That's a t-shirt. KG's war kitty. So I wonder if he knows. I would call him, but I'm pretty sure he said he's working today. So yes, and it's his wedding anniversary. Indeed, Lux Hill says it's KG's wedding anniversary. So if you haven't, wish him a happy anniversary. I'm sure the rest of the chat will right now, or in the comments. If you've made it to the end of the video and you're watching after the fact, you can wish KG a happy wedding anniversary. He is going to be back by the weekend as well. He's going to be back for the Arsenal game, which I don't know if is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm more comfortable, to be honest, having him in the country for the Arsenal game. That gives me a bit more confidence, because if KG's was out of the country, you mean the record's not good. The record of KG not being in the country isn't great. I think the only worst record is KG actively travelling when a game's on. If KG is in the air when we're playing a game, we have lost. Like, it was Liverpool 7-0 and Spurs 2-0. There might be other circumstances about that as well, where he's not in the country, and we tend to lose, but particularly when he's traveling, it gets really, really bad. Really, really bad. And you know me, I believe in all of the jinxes and all that kind of stuff, so that's on KG. A bit like yesterday with Flex and the draw for the Champions League. That's on Flex. That's Flex's fault. He's saying, "Oh no, I've got great powers of prediction." I don't think he understands. I'm like, no, that's you. That's your power. You don't understand, like, again, how powerful you are with the words that you say. And he does it on purpose, because if you watch it back, because it was clipped for our social media, check it out. And if you watch it back, he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly that if I say Bayern Munich, we'll get Bayern Munich, and he's a disgrace because he knows his power and he denies it's a thing. So there you go. Lots of congratulations in the chat for KG and Mrs. KG as well, and we pass on our congratulations as well. Wish them a happy anniversary. Anyway, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As I mentioned, plenty of content on the horizon for the rest of the day. I'm out of it. Have a good one. Peace.